Have you ever watched a mother slap her own grown daughter across the face in front of 150 wedding guests, because she refused to sign away her home? Picture this. You're standing on a stage at the most expensive hotel in Philadelphia. Crystal chandeliers above you. Judges, lawyers, surgeons in every seat. Your sister's wedding. And your mother has just handed you a stack of legal documents in front of everyone, demanding you sign over your $1 million condo as a wedding gift to your little sister. You say no. And her hand comes so fast you don't even see it. The slap echoes off the marble. Your pearl earring, the one your grandmother gave you for your birthday, flies off your ear and bounces across the floor like a tiny bell. That was my life. February 10th, 2024. 150 people watching. And every single one of them expected me to cry, apologize, and give in. Like I always had. But not this time. This time, I bent down, picked up that earring, put it back on, looked my mother dead in the eyes, and said, "That's the last time you ever touch me." Then I walked out, pulled out my phone, and made one call. 60 minutes later, a woman walked through those ballroom doors. And when my mother saw who it was, she screamed. Because the woman she'd been telling everyone was confused and losing her mind had just arrived with an attorney and proof of everything she'd been hiding for 3 years. But before I tell you who walked in and what she brought with her, let me take you back 3 years. To the phone call that started all of this. It was a Wednesday evening in April of 2021. I was sitting at my kitchen table in my apartment in Fishtown, eating cold sesame noodles and going over tile samples for a client's bathroom remodel, when my phone rang. Grandma Vivian. My grandmother, Vivian Ashford, was 79 years old. She'd been a tenured professor at Penn Law for 28 years before she retired. Sharp as a blade. She never called to chat. She called when something mattered. "Cora, honey," she said. Her voice was calm, the way it always was when she was about to say something important. "I'm updating my will, and I need you to know what I've decided. I'm leaving you the condo at 1600 Walnut Street." I put my fork down. That condo was her pride. She'd bought it in 2014 for $1.6 million. 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over Rittenhouse Square. It was worth close to $2 million now. Why me? I asked. Not because I didn't want it. Because I genuinely didn't understand why she'd pick me over my sister or my mother. "Because you show up," she said. Just like that. No drama. "Every Sunday for 11 years, Cora. You bring me peonies because you remember they're my favorite. You sit with me when there's nothing to talk about. Your mother sends a card at Christmas. Your sister doesn't send anything at all." I felt my throat tighten. "Grandma. The paperwork will be done by next month. Harold Zimmerman is handling it. He's been my attorney for 22 years. She let out a slow breath. "Your mother is going to lose her mind over this. You know that." I did know. I just didn't know yet how far she'd go. The news got out within weeks. I still don't know how. Maybe someone at Harold's office mentioned it to somebody who mentioned it to somebody else. Philadelphia's legal community is a small world. All I know is that by May of 2021, my mother had called what she described as a family conversation at her townhouse in Society Hill. I walked into that living room and immediately understood this was not a conversation. It was an ambush. My father, Martin, sat in his leather armchair near the fireplace. My mother, Diane, was on the settee, legs crossed, posture perfect, like a woman who'd already decided the outcome. My sister Brooke was perched on the arm of the sofa looking wounded, like someone had just stolen her parking spot at Nordstrom. They'd arranged themselves in a half circle facing one empty chair. A straight-backed wooden chair. The kind you sit in when you're being interrogated. "Cora." My mother's voice was warm, almost sweet. That should have been my first warning. "We need to discuss your grandmother's condition." "Her condition," I repeated. "She's clearly not thinking straight," Diane said. Her Cartier watch caught the lamplight as she gestured. Leaving a $2 million property to one grandchild? Bypassing her own daughter? That's not rational behavior. That's a woman who's been influenced. Influenced. She meant by me. She was calling me a predator without using the word. She's not confused, Mom. She knows exactly what she wants. Brooke let out a little whimper. Practiced. Perfect. This is so unfair. I love Grandma. I just don't have time to visit every single week. I have a career. I have a life. You have a trust fund and a boyfriend with a lake house, I thought. But I kept my mouth shut. My father cleared his throat. Martin Ashford, attorney at law, who hadn't come to my college graduation because it conflicted with his schedule, which turned out to be a golf weekend in the Poconos. That Martin Ashford now looked at me and said, the fair thing, Cora, would be to decline the inheritance. Or at least agree to sell and split the proceeds among the family. I stared at him. This man who hadn't asked about my life in years was now telling me what was fair. I'm not declining anything, I said. Grandma made this choice. If you have a problem with it, take it up with her. The room went cold. Diane's smile disappeared like someone flipped a switch. Then I hope you're ready for what comes next, she said. Because selfish choices have consequences. And she meant it. Within weeks, I was removed from the family group chat. I found out about Brooke's engagement party through an Instagram post, a photo of her surrounded by our cousins at a rooftop bar in Center City, champagne in the air, not a single text sent my way. When I asked my mother about it, she said, "Oh honey, we figured you wouldn't want to come. You've been so wrapped up in your little staging business." My little staging business was a licensed interior design firm with 15 active clients and revenue that had doubled in 12 months. But to Diane Ashford, if it wasn't a law degree or a rich husband, it was just a hobby. But the exclusion wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the story she started telling. To the neighbors. To her tennis friends. To everyone at the country club. Poor Vivian. Cora basically manipulated her. Visited her constantly, turned her against the rest of us. You know how vulnerable elderly people can be. She painted me as a con artist. A schemer. The ungrateful daughter who'd taken advantage of a confused old woman for a payday. And through all of it, I never once corrected her publicly. I never made a scene. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I just kept my head down, the storm would eventually pass. I didn't understand yet that my silence was exactly what Diane was counting on. What I also didn't understand was why Grandma Vivian had moved into Laurel Ridge Senior Living in late 2021. A beautiful place out in Bryn Mawr, $13,000 a month. She told me she wanted some peace. She said she was tired of the noise. But sometimes when I visited her on Sundays, I'd catch something in her expression. A flicker. Something behind her eyes that looked almost like fear. "Grandma," I asked her once. "Did something happen between you and Mom?" She looked out the window at the gardens for a long time. "Some things are better left alone," she finally said. "At least for now." I let it go. I shouldn't have. 3 years would pass before I understood what she was hiding. And why. December 2023. 3 months before the wedding that would blow everything wide open. I was in my studio on a Friday afternoon looking at wallpaper samples when the mail came. Among the invoices and catalogs was an envelope of heavy ivory cardstock. My name in calligraphy so fancy it took me a second to read it. Brooke's wedding. February 10, 2024. The Bellevue Hotel, Broad Street. Black tie. I just stared at it. After 2 years of being treated like a ghost, no holidays, no birthdays, no texts, they were inviting me to the wedding. That same evening, my phone rang. "Cora, darling." Diane's voice was warm, almost affectionate. I hadn't heard that tone since before the inheritance news. "Did you get Brooke's invitation? This wedding is going to be such a beautiful chance for our family to come together. To heal." I waited. Because I knew more was coming. I'd been thinking, she continued. There it was. This would be the perfect time to revisit our conversation about the condo. Brooke and Nathan will need somewhere to live after the honeymoon. Somewhere appropriate for a young couple starting out. You could transfer the property as a wedding gift. Think of how generous that would look. Think of how proud Grandma would be. The nerve of it almost took my breath away. Using my grandmother, the woman who had specifically chosen to leave that condo to me, as a reason I should give it away. I'm not transferring anything, Mom. The warmth vanished. Brooke is marrying into the Prescott family. Nathan's father is a senior partner at Morgan Lewis. They'll be entertaining. They'll be hosting. They need a home that reflects their position. Then Nathan's father can buy them one. Silence. Then ice. I expect you to think very carefully about this before the wedding, Cora. And I expect you to make the right decision. She hung up. I sat there as the winter light faded. I understood exactly what was coming. If I went to that wedding and refused again in front of everyone Diane had spent decades cultivating, lawyers, judges, the entire Philadelphia social circuit, she would destroy me. My reputation. My business. My referrals, half of which came from word of mouth in those exact circles. But if I didn't go, that was its own kind of surrender. Proof I was ashamed. Proof I had something to hide. I RSVP'd yes. 1 week before the wedding, my phone rang at 6:45 in the morning. Grandma Vivian. Cora, sweetheart. Her voice had an edge I'd only heard a handful of times in my life. Listen to me carefully. If something happens at that wedding, and I believe something will, I need you to call Harold Zimmerman immediately. His number is 215-551-4218. Write it down. I grabbed a pen. Grandma, what are you talking about? What's going to happen? Your mother thinks I don't know what she's planning. She forgets I was practicing law before she could spell her own name. Vivian's voice was steady, but underneath it was steel. I've prepared everything, Cora. Harold has all the documents. If you need them, they're ready. What documents? Grandma, what aren't you telling me? Just remember the number. A beat. And remember that I love you. Whatever happens, I love you. She hung up before I could ask anything else. I saved Harold's number and I noticed my hands were shaking. I wouldn't understand why until I walked through the doors of the Bellevue Hotel and saw what was waiting for me. February 10th, 2024. 5:30 in the evening. The Bellevue Hotel rose above Broad Street like a monument to old money and older grudges. I'd driven past it 1,000 times. But walking through those brass doors as a guest, as an Ashford, felt different. It felt like walking into a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. The ballroom was stunning. White roses cascading from crystal chandeliers. A 10-piece jazz ensemble playing Cole Porter in the corner. Waiters in black ties circulating with champagne and crab cakes on silver trays. Every detail had Diane's fingerprints on it. Perfect. Controlled. Expensive. 153 guests. I counted the chairs during cocktail hour. Lawyers, doctors, investment bankers, old Philadelphia families whose names were on hospital wings and library buildings. These were the people my mother had spent 30 years impressing. Her audience. Her jury. I wore a dark green dress. Elegant but not flashy. I'd agonized over what to wear, knowing that too expensive meant I was showing off, and too simple meant I was embarrassing the family. In the end, I chose something that felt like me. Brooke found me near the cocktail station. She floated over in a cloud of white organza and Swarovski crystals, gave me one of those hugs where her arms went around me but her body didn't actually touch mine. Cora. You came. Camera-ready smile. Perfect teeth. Perfect everything. Of course I came. You're my sister. Her expression shifted. Subtle. Calculated. Did you bring the paperwork? I blinked. What paperwork? Mom said you'd have the transfer documents ready by today. Her voice was light, almost playful, but her eyes were stone. For the condo? Our wedding gift? So this was it. They'd already decided among themselves that I would cave. The invitation, the phone call, the fake reconciliation, it was all a setup for this moment. Brooke, there are no transfer documents. The condo is mine. It's not a gift. It's not up for discussion. Her smile cracked. Just for a second. But we already told Nathan's parents we wouldn't need the apartment in Fairmount. We already told everyone. You told everyone about a home that doesn't belong to you. It should belong to us. Her voice climbed. You don't even need it. You live in that little place in Fishtown. You don't entertain. You don't have anyone to impress. What's the point of you having a $2 million condo? The point. What was the point of me having anything nice? Anything that suggested I might matter as much as she did? I'd spent my whole life being asked that question in different ways. The point, I said quietly, is that Grandma wanted me to have it. Brooke leaned in. Her bridal perfume was suffocating. Mom's going to handle this, she whispered. And when she does, don't say I didn't warn you. She turned and glided back to her bridesmaids, leaving me standing alone by the ice sculpture. I escaped to the terrace. The February air bit through my dress, but after the suffocating heat of that ballroom, I needed it. I leaned against the stone railing and tried to slow my breathing. That's when my phone buzzed. Grandma Vivian. Tell me what's happening, she said. How do you know something's happening? Because I know my daughter. A pause. Diane's been making calls for weeks. Building her case. Gathering her people. She thinks I don't know because I'm locked away in my retirement home. The disdain in Vivian's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. She forgets that I have friends who actually like me. What is she planning, Grandma? I don't know the specifics. But I know it'll happen tonight, while she has her audience. That's how your mother operates. She needs witnesses. She needs people watching so she can control the story afterward. Then Vivian told me the truth. All of it. 6 months ago, your friend Megan came to visit me. Megan Chen. We'd been close since our 20s. She was a reporter now, working investigations at the Philadelphia Inquirer. She'd mentioned she was looking into some irregular real estate deals in the suburbs, but I hadn't thought anything of it. She found something, Vivian continued. A property sale in 2020. A beach house I owned in Cape May. A house I never sold. My breath stopped. Your mother sold it. For $920,000. She forged my signature on every document. The world tilted. I gripped the railing. I didn't want to believe it either, Vivian said. So I hired a forensic document analysis firm. Verified specialists. They compared the signatures on the sale documents to my authentic handwriting samples. The probability of forgery was 98.4%. Why didn't you tell me? My voice was barely a whisper. Why didn't you go to the police? Because she's my daughter. Vivian's voice cracked. Just barely. Then steadied. Because I hoped there was some explanation. Some reason that wasn't what it looked like. But there wasn't. We both knew there wasn't. That's why you moved to Laurel Ridge, I said. Understanding hit me like cold water. Not because you wanted peace. Because you couldn't be around her. I couldn't trust her, Cora. So I removed myself. I protected what I could. And I waited. Waited for what? For her to make a mistake. Tonight might be that mistake. Now before I tell you what happened when I walked back into that ballroom, I want to take a quick second. If you're new here, this is what we do on this channel. I take real stories from Reddit, Quora, and other forums, with the original poster's blessing, change the names, the cities, the details to protect their privacy, and add a bit of fiction where needed. But then I do something most channels don't. I break these stories down. Not just what happened, but why it happened. The patterns. The tactics. The things people do to control you that you don't even realize until someone points them out. So if you want to understand family dynamics like this, really understand them, hit subscribe right now. Because what's about to happen next is exactly why this channel exists. And before I walk you back into that ballroom, I need you to understand something about what Diane had been doing for 3 years. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. My mother never yelled at Thanksgiving dinner. She never threw dishes. She never did anything that would look bad in front of other people. Instead, she did something much smarter. She made sure she always had an audience. She told her version of the story to every neighbor, every friend, every colleague, over and over, until her version became the only version anyone had ever heard. And by the time I finally tried to speak up, nobody believed me because Diane had already told them who I was. That's how it works. The person doing the damage doesn't need to be loud. They just need to get to everyone else first. And the person being hurt stays quiet, thinking silence will protect them, not realizing that silence is exactly what makes the whole thing work. My silence was her greatest weapon. Every time I kept my head down, every time I didn't correct her lies, I was handing her more power. Not because I was weak. Because I believed that if I was just patient enough, just good enough, eventually people would see the truth on their own. They don't. They see whatever story was told to them first. I wish I'd learned that sooner. I walked back into that ballroom like a woman walking into a fire she knew was coming. 7:30. Dinner had been cleared. Toasts had been made. Martin's stiff speech about legacy. Nathan's father talking about the union of 2 great Philadelphia families. The maid of honor telling a sorority story that got polite laughter. I sat at table 16, near the back, with distant cousins who kept glancing at me sideways. Fine by me. I wanted to disappear. But Diane Ashford had other plans. The clink of metal against crystal silenced the room. My mother stood at the head table, champagne in one hand, microphone in the other. Her Valentino gown sparkled under the chandeliers. If I could have everyone's attention, she said, I'd like to do something very special. A family tradition that Brooke has asked me to help with. I felt ice crawl up my spine. As many of you know, the Ashford family believes in taking care of each other. We support one another. We sacrifice for one another. Her eyes swept the room and landed on me. And tonight, I'd like to invite my eldest daughter, Cora, to join me up here. 153 pairs of eyes turned to table 16. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Cora, sweetheart. Come on up, honey. What was I supposed to do? If I refused, I was the difficult one. The selfish sister who ruined the wedding. I stood up. My legs felt like they belonged to somebody else. I walked through the maze of tables, past the whispers and the stairs, up to the platform where my mother waited with that perfect, poisonous smile. She put an arm around my shoulders. For the audience, it looked like affection. For me, it was a vice grip. Now everyone, Cora has been holding on to something very special. My mother left her a gorgeous condo on Walnut Street. $2 million. Quite the inheritance. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cora's been keeping it safe, waiting for just the right moment to share it with the family. And what better moment than tonight? Brooke's wedding day. She produced a folder I hadn't even noticed. Inside, transfer of deed, quitclaim agreement, my name already typed on the signature lines. All Cora needs to do is sign, and this incredible gift will help Brooke and Nathan begin their marriage in a home that reflects their future. The room applauded. They actually applauded. Like this was a hallmark moment and not a public shakedown. Mom. My voice was quiet but it carried. I'm not signing this. Her smile stayed frozen. Don't be nervous, sweetheart. It's just paperwork. It's not just paperwork. It's the home Grandma Vivian left to me. Not to Brooke. Not to the family. To me. The applause died. The silence that followed was suffocating. Brooke appeared at the edge of the stage, tears already rolling. You're really going to do this? On my wedding day? I didn't ask to be called up here, Brooke. I didn't ask to be put on display. Because we knew you'd be selfish, she snapped. We knew you'd choose a stupid apartment over your own family. It's not stupid when you want to live in it. Diane's composure finally shattered. Her face went red. Her voice climbed. You ungrateful child. After everything this family has done for you, after we raised you, educated you, supported your little business, you can't do this one thing? You never supported my business. You've never even been to my studio. And you didn't raise me. Grandma did. Every summer. Every school break. While you were at fundraisers and galas and anywhere else that wasn't home. Gasps. I'd said too much. But I couldn't stop. The condo is mine because Grandma wanted me to have it. Because I showed up. And no amount of public humiliation is going to change that. Diane's hand moved so fast I didn't see it. The slap cracked across my left cheek hard enough to snap my head sideways. My pearl earring, Grandma Vivian's gift, flew off my ear and skittered across the marble floor. Dead silence. Every person in that room stopped breathing. I stood still. My cheek burned. My vision blurred. Then I bent down. Picked up the earring. It was slightly bent but not broken. I straightened it, carefully, and put it back on. Then I looked at my mother. That's the last time you touch me. My voice didn't shake. I was proud of that. I walked off that stage, through the tables, past every whisper and every stare, out the double doors of the ballroom, and into the lobby. I didn't run. I didn't cry. I found a quiet corner, pulled out my phone, and dialed Harold Zimmerman's number. One ring. Zimmerman's office. This is Cora Ashford. Please tell my grandmother that the documents are needed. Understood, Ms. Ashford. She'll be there within the hour. I hung up. Sat down on a velvet bench. Touched my stinging cheek. And waited. 8:45. The main doors of the Bellevue Hotel opened, and my grandmother walked in. Vivian Ashford was 79 years old. She used a cane now and moved slower than I remembered. But everything else about her radiated the same force that had made her one of the most respected law professors in the state for nearly 3 decades. Gray cashmere coat. Simple black dress. Silver hair pinned back. And beside her walked Harold Zimmerman, mid-50s, wire-rimmed glasses, charcoal suit, carrying a leather briefcase like it contained a bomb. Grandma. I stood and my composure cracked. You came. She crossed the lobby and took my face in her hands. Looked at my cheek. Her jaw tightened. She hit you. Yes. She kissed my forehead the way she used to when I was a kid and had skinned my knee. Then let's finish this. We walked into the ballroom together. The wedding was in chaos. Guests huddled in clusters. Brooke was sobbing, real tears this time, while Nathan and his parents stood nearby looking like they'd wandered into the wrong building. Diane was near the head table, gesturing at Martin, who seemed to be trying to calm her down and failing badly. Someone gasped. Then another. Then Diane turned. And saw her mother walking toward her across the marble floor. Mom. The word came out like someone was choking her. What are you, how? I'm here for my granddaughter's wedding, Vivian said. Her voice carried across the entire room. I wasn't invited, of course. But I decided to come anyway. She stopped 10 feet from Diane and turned to face the guests. 150 people. Most of them attorneys or judges who understood exactly what was about to happen. My name is Vivian Ashford. I was a professor of law at Penn for 28 years. I am of sound mind, and I am here to confirm that the condo at 1600 Walnut Street was left to Cora Ashford in my will, dated August 3, 2019. That will is legal, valid, and enforceable. There are no other claims to that property. Harold opened his briefcase and produced a document. This is a certified copy of Mrs. Ashford's will, notarized and filed with the Philadelphia County Orphans Court. I've been her attorney for 22 years. Diane's face twisted. This is ridiculous. Mother, you're confused. You don't know what you're. I know exactly what I'm saying. Vivian nodded to Harold, who pulled out a second stack of papers. These are transaction records for a property in Cape May. A beach house that was deeded in my name until October 15, 2020, when it was sold for $920,000. You could hear ice melting in the champagne buckets. I did not sell that property, Vivian continued. I could not have sold it. I was in Jefferson Hospital for 5 weeks that fall with a fractured hip. I signed nothing. I authorized nothing. Harold produced a third document. This is a forensic analysis from a certified handwriting firm. They compared the signature on the Cape May documents to authenticated samples of Mrs. Ashford's handwriting. Their conclusion: the signature is inconsistent with Mrs. Ashford's authentic hand. Probability of forgery, 98.4%. The ballroom erupted. I saw Nathan's father, the senior partner at Morgan Lewis, lock eyes with another attorney near the bar. That looks at everything. You're lying. Diane's voice cracked like a windshield. This is fabricated. You're senile, Mother, you don't know what. I'm sharp enough to hire experts. Sharp enough to preserve evidence. And sharp enough, Vivian's voice dropped, to have forwarded this entire file to the Philadelphia County District Attorney's office last week. Every drop of color drained from Diane's face. Forgery and fraud, Diane. Up to 7 years under Pennsylvania law. Vivian's tone softened. Almost gentle. The way she used to explain complicated ideas to first-year students. I gave you 3 years to confess. To make it right. Instead, you spent those years destroying Cora's reputation, calling me senile, and trying to steal her inheritance the same way you stole my property. Diane spun toward Martin. Martin, say something. Stop this. Martin Ashford took one step backward. I didn't know, he said. Flat. Hollow. I didn't know about the Cape May house. You signed the transfer. Diane shrieked. You were there. I signed what you told me to sign. I didn't know it was forged. 33 years of marriage. Collapsing in real time in front of 150 witnesses. Vivian turned to me. Her eyes were tired but steady. I'm sorry you found out this way, Cora. I'm sorry I waited so long. It's okay, Grandma. I took her hand. I understand. She looked at Diane one last time. You lost me the day I found out what you'd done. Tonight, everyone else just got to see the truth. She turned toward the exit. I walked beside her. Behind us, Diane was screaming, denials, accusations, demands. Nathan's parents were saying something sharp and final to Brooke. The murmur of the crowd became a roar. I didn't look back. Not once. We made it to the lobby before Nathan caught up with us. I heard his shoes first, quick, sharp clicks on marble. Mrs. Ashford, he said, addressing my grandmother directly, completely ignoring me. If we could just talk about this privately. Families have disagreements. Paperwork gets complicated. The paperwork was forged, Vivian said. My daughter committed fraud. Those aren't disagreements, Mr. Prescott. They're crimes. He shifted. The polished mask slipped. The condo, though. Brooke mentioned you might be reconsidering your will. Perhaps there's a way to. Mr. Prescott. Vivian's voice could have frozen the Delaware River. The condo belongs to Cora. It will continue to belong to Cora. And if you're asking whether I'll hand my assets to a granddaughter who married a man willing to beg in a hotel lobby, the answer is no. She smiled. That particular smile that made courtroom attorneys go pale. You married the wrong Ashford, young man. Harold stepped between them. I'd advise you to return to your wedding, Mr. Prescott. Anything you say right now could be relevant to ongoing investigations. Nathan Prescott, son of a senior partner at one of the most powerful law firms in the state, suddenly looked like a scared kid. He retreated without another word. We stepped into the cold February night. The air smelled like rain. What happens now? I asked. The DA will proceed with their investigation, Harold said. The evidence is substantial. Vivian's face softened. That's up to the courts now. I've done what I needed to do. A town car pulled to the curb. Vivian turned to me. Come visit tomorrow. I want to hear about your business. The real version, not the polished one. She hugged me. A real hug. Not the performance Diane had given me on stage. I held on longer than I probably should have. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, sweet girl. The fallout came fast. Within 2 weeks, Diane was called in for questioning by the DA's office. 4 hours. Her attorney withdrew from the case days later. Martin moved to the Four Seasons on March 1st, because even in a crisis, Martin Ashford kept up appearances. He released a statement claiming he had no knowledge of improper transactions. Whether anyone believed him was another story. His signature was on those papers too. Brooke and Nathan postponed their honeymoon indefinitely. Nathan's parents wanted his legal exposure clarified before they left the country. The dream of living in my condo was dead. On April 5th, Diane received an email from the Children's Hospital Charity Board she'd co-chaired for 14 years. Subject line: Your involvement status has been updated. Translation: She was out. The Philadelphia Bar Association opened an ethics inquiry. 2 attorneys from the wedding filed formal complaints. And on April 12, a small item appeared in the Inquirer's legal column: Philadelphia area attorney under investigation for alleged document fraud in 2020 real estate transaction. No names. But in a city this small, no names were needed. My phone filled with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Apologies. Support. A few fishing for gossip, which I ignored. The one that mattered came from a woman named Sandra Keating at a Center City law firm. She'd been at the wedding. She wrote, I owe you an apology. I believe things I shouldn't have. We're renovating our conference floor and I'd love to discuss the project with you if you're interested. I sat with that email for 3 days. Then I took the meeting. Budget, $85,000. The biggest contract I'd ever landed. By summer, I had 3 more project inquiries from people who'd been at the wedding. Word was spreading. Not just about Diane's collapse, but about my work. People who dismissed me as the Ashford daughter with the cute little decorating thing were now calling me the Ashford daughter who stood her ground. June of 2024. I'm sitting on the balcony of my condo, watching the sun set over Rittenhouse Square. The sky is streaked orange and gold and the trees below are full and green. Grandma Vivian is next to me. She comes every Sunday now. I pick her up from Laurel Ridge and we spend the day together. Today we've been talking about my father. He called me, I tell her. He wants to explain his side. Do you believe him? I think about it. I believe he chose not to know. I believe he's been choosing not to know for 33 years. And Brooke? She texted. She wants to talk. I take a breath. But she hasn't once acknowledged what happened. She hasn't asked me what it was like. She just wants things to go back to normal. And I can't do that. Vivian squeezes my hand. You know what I've learned, Cora? Love without respect isn't love. It's just habit. I started therapy in April. I met someone in May, a landscape architect named Will who has no idea who the Ashfords of Society Hill are. He likes me for my laugh and my terrible taste in reality TV and the way I talk to my houseplants. It's new. It's slow. It's the first time I've let someone in without worrying about what they'd think of my family. This is my life now. A home that's really mine. A grandmother who loves me. A business that's growing. Boundaries that hold. A future I'm building on my own terms, one honest choice at a time. If you're watching this and you're in a situation where your family expects you to sacrifice yourself for their comfort, if you've been told that having boundaries makes you selfish, I want you to hear this. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to want more. Being kind to yourself is not the opposite of being kind to others. It's the foundation. This is what we do on this channel. Real stories from real people on Reddit, Quora, and other forums. Names changed. Details changed. A little fiction added for privacy. But the heart of every story is true. And I break them down, the patterns, the tactics, the psychology, so we can all recognize these things when they show up in our own lives. If that's something you need, subscribe. It's free, and it might just change how you see the people around you. If this story hit home for you, leave a comment. Tell me what you would have done. And if you want another one like this, check out the video right here. I'll see you there. Take care of yourselves.